Shalom, shalom. Well, I hope and pray that everyone has a lot of joy and peace and is really in great fellowship with Ruach HaKodesh, with Yeshua HaMashiach. I mean, there are so many with our Father. This is Sukkot. This is just an incredibly joyous season. And so I have a little message I want to give. But the thing is even though things are so dystopian, oh my gosh, it couldn't get any crazier. Well, it's going to, so we might as well get used to it. But how to process all this, it's really important to me because the elect, those who have oil in their lamp, there's a group who will be able to process the bombardment of so much, in little paranormal things that are just going to keep happening and happening. So one of the things that I've been looking at, because what I see deep in the word, because that's where kind of from Pards, from studying the Sod level, the deeper mysteries, I have been spending the bulk of my whole spiritual time over the last 2 years with the Father, or 10 years, I meant to say. But what is going on with angels, with the heavens, the unseen realms, which our Bible is totally full of. It's totally full. That there are definitely entities and interactions and things going on between other dimensions in here. And that holds true with all ancient literatures. Truly what's going on today in a much more repackaged sense, where we're talking about, aliens or UFOs or any of this kind of stuff. It's really just a repackaged deal of the same phenomena. So this has been the reality of mankind from the get-go. But what do you make of it all? Okay, so I have lately I've gone back to a lot of the Dead Sea Scrolls, because more and more I am convinced, this is just my, how I put the puzzle together, the Dead Sea Scrolls truly are, many of them, they have to be a seen messianic Christian writings that include the whole, Yeshua is in James the Just. A lot of the early church figures can be found in there, but much of the is coded, so it takes a little bit of deeper digging to understand who these players are. But again, just out there to throw this out there, I do not anyway think that Paul is part of that, the quote-unquote bad cabal. I think that we're talking more like a character of Simon Magus, and we have to understand what a Magus is. This whole idea of a magician, a master sorcerer, a Balaam of the generation who comes against God's people. These are concepts that we've really kind of lost on their deeper level. So we're, kind of shooting ourselves in the foot when we're trying to delve into these deeper mysteries. But be that as it may, what I'm trying to say is I've been looking at the Michael. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's a very enigmatic, esoteric scroll. It's called the Heavenly Prince Melchizedek. All right. And it was found in Cave 11. And I want to read parts of it, because what it's saying, because over Yom Kippur, I was listening to a fabulous messianic ministry, and this rabbi in this group got it totally correct, in my opinion, that where it's really all coming down to a battle, the final between the sons of light, sons of God, and the sons of Belial, who is another kind of Luciferian code word, and the sons of darkness. And that's just the way the whole world is funneling down today. And this is why the clarity of the Zohar, the clarity of the deeper understandings, is going to make everything make sense, because we are beginning to deal with really extra dimensional beings now, who the text tells us have been thrown down to the earth. And then ultimately this prince, this king, this deliverer is going to come to the earth. So there's definitely this sense of a climatic final conflagration here, it seems, planet Earth, between these two massive, for lack of a better word, entities. All right. But Michael, so he is quote unquote known to us just as an archangel, but in the literature, in the writings, his role is so much larger. All right. It spells out who he is. Now let's just take the name Michael. All right. Michael. All right. And now, from what I know, because I study deeply into the tree of life and how information is coded into, by the way, that's the tree we're getting grafted back into. We need to get grafted in the tree of life. it's again, I have to explain this every single time, I guess. I always feel like somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about, they'll think I'm crazy, but I don't really care, because they thought Yeshua was crazy, or what all the masters like that. So it doesn't matter. But the point is, these words are coded. So the name means who. It's me and El, which are Hebrew. El, we know, El is one of the most fundamental two-letter root words for God overall, El. And he's every kind of El. He's El Shaddai, and, El Sabaoth, okay? He is the God of, he is the God of everything. That's what we're told. But so that's El, that's God. But the other one is me, which means who. Now in the translation, we get who is like God. But ultimately, who, see, because this is how I want to say, how the letters embed such unbelievable deeper levels of truth, okay? So you have El, and then God, who is like God is what they say, but what it's really saying, it's the equation, who is God, who equals El, is, and who is a code word for Bina. See, understand, in this idea of Yeshua, or in the Mashiach, in the highest level of Yod He Vav He, in the concept of the greater, the seven spirits of Elohim, the Zeron Pin, the sun, okay, is the fullness. This is what it said, the Godhead. This is the fullness of the mother and father dwell, in the Son. This is what it's telling us. So the fact that it's who is a code word for Bina. Bina is the mother. Bina gave birth to the Son. That's the whole point. The mother gives. See, allegorically, on every level, it's always true to nature and true. So they just kind of move the understanding higher up. The Bible tells us clearly we are not talking about literal beings that have a lot of flesh and blood to them, or we're talking about mind, we're talking about spirit. Elohim is spirit. Ultimately, we're in these. But the point I'm trying to make is, I see this on the tree of life. It's 100% there. It's called Bina, which is absolutely 100% true. Did bring forth the Son, all right? And the Son in all of his glory, all of his manifestations, all of the millions of hats. See, this is one of the things, they wear millions of hats, and that's what we're, so his name is Michael. This is the logo. See, this is where all of these different, and let me get these code words begin to pull together and make sense. So that's in the name. I mean, right in the name, in the Hebrew, combining me, who, Bina is, El is God, is in the flesh. It fits with all the theology, everything that we know, it fits the whole way down. Okay, so now Michael is known as Metatron. Now Metatron, and it says it flat out, and I read in many of the writings, but the point is, these are in the wisdom, in the books for the wise, where it will spell more of these relationships out. But Metatron is a very important figure in the Zoharic literature. All right, but he is Michael. So we're talking about the same persona. All right, but the key verse in all of this, if you're a New Testament Christian, and hopefully you're a Messianic, going into the Hebrew understanding of all this, Colossians 1, 25, 26, 27, I should probably get it, is so Hebraic centric Old Testament understanding, and it sums up this total role of Michael, of this Metatron, who is Mashiach, who is Yod He Vav He, all the way to it has so. Okay, but let me just get to the verse here so I can read that. You know what I'm talking about. I've done this a lot. He is okay. Since the creation of the world, hold on a second here. Well, I must have my wrong retimery here. Oh, the supremacy of Christ. For he is the image of the invisible God. Listen, people, image, remember? And was made in the image and likeness. Image is a word, it's coded for, yes. He was the spitting image of his father. That's basically, really and truly, and of the invisible Elohim. The invisible, when he talks about the invisible, it's talking about the upper waters, the very high part of God that just doesn't, which is Chokmah and Bina and Keter, which is the highest level on the tree of life. That's what it's depicting. That, just let's stop there, because but he is also, now we're moving the firstborn over all creation. So I said, because when you take El, you put God being able to give forth everything that was in the mother is in him. He is the firstborn, and that's what it says. He has supremacy. But the firstborn, and a lot I've done, people in the modern mind do not, in my opinion, understand what a firstborn is. A firstborn, these are titles. And this is why the high priest, he's also the high priest Melchizedek. Melchizedek is a title, it's an office for that high priest, that firstborn. That role, the spiritual role within the birthrights of the firstborn, was always given only to that firstborn. So Shem, I just think I digressed a little bit there. Let me come back to that. But I wanted to finish here in Colossians. So it says, for by him all things were created. That fits with all of the texts, even the deepest Zoharic texts. And then they go on and they use the phrases like the craftsman or these different words that are talking about how he was fashioned and formed. All right. God has, he has hands, but he doesn't really have hands, but it's a way of expressing. I'll just stop with that. All right. Because it gets pretty deep, because we were made, we were formed, and we were created. So those are all three different Hebrew words with three different kind of meanings to them. So, but we're not going there. But all things by him were created, things in heaven and things on earth. This is what we know. It says the heavens, he was creator of heavens and earth. The heavens are the invisible realms. Spoiler alert. Let me reload. The heavens, biblically, if you want to put it in totally modern parlance, it is our psychological levels. All right. The parts of us that relate to God, that know him or don't know him, whatever. You're either in light or you're in darkness mentally, is what it's saying. Your psychological levels, and you're even higher up reasoning, your mind, your reason, where it's a cognitive facility. So this is where the heavens are really all the wiring. I mean, seriously, people, this thing is so taking shape in my mind. I'm sorry, this is the hidden part. This is what Paul is always talking about with, and this is where much of the battle is. Most of the battle is in those. Actually, the battle is in the mind. That's a truth. Anyways, visible, invisible. Now, whether thrones or powers, rulers or authorities. Okay. Now, those are big words, and those have a lot of meaning to them. We're talking about other angelic orders. So, Michael is okay. But then in the other archangels, we know there's Uriel, Gabriel, and Raphael. I mean, it talks about this, but what are they talking about? Now, let me put this right away. I am not making an image out of Michael. So don't go looking at a Catholic little card of Michael slaying the dragons. That's not what we're doing. All right. Do not concretize this thing in lower level thinking. That's making an idol. Okay. Keep this thing very elevated. Let's just talk in terms of large archetypes. All right. So these rulers and each one of these words can relate to an Old Testament word, which relates to really and truly angelic orders. There's a pecking order. Okay. That's why Michael is the chief angel over and over and over. Our text tells us he is the chief angel, and he is the chief angel over what? Over Israel, which is Adonai's, which is God's inheritance. That's us, right? He is our prince. He's called, and I love it, Shar Shalom. He's the Prince of Peace. I mean, there's so many appellations, I think the word appellations, words that describe all sorts of facets of his persona, his character, his role, who he is, God's representative in all of the multidimensionals, however many there are. Okay, now, so that's what it says. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. It was the glue, and this gets into what is the property of Elohim. He is light. We know light's in everything, but he's also, he's the voice, the sound, the different things, the elemental properties that make up all things that we know of in existence. But that's another whole issue. But he is the head of the body, the church. Now that's, that is such a Christianized understanding. I know most Christians even have that Christianized understanding in their mind, but it is truly one of the oldest Old Testament theological constructs you can have. It's called Adam Caedmon, the body, yes, of Christ, the body of the anointed one. Adam Caedmon. Everybody's always known that if he was made in the image and likeness, there's something you could, gaze upon, but see, you have to understand, we're not using gaze in the sense that you're going to see something physical there. You can in your mind look at all the attributes of this Elohim, this Michael, because Elohim means God. Okay, so if he's El, he's the chief Elohim. He's the chief God. All right, but we know even Yeshua said, this is why it gets real complicated in the sense, and you have to kind of, in a way, keep doing circular reasoning because you come back to the same thing. Where Yeshua said, look, I'm not the Father. The Father is greater, and I'm going back to the Father. And that totally fits into the tree of life. And it just totally fits into even some of the weirder pseudographics, not weirder, but in the sense of highly coded. You have to figure out, what are they talking about? It talks about these angels carrying down the soul of Yeshua, of Mashiach. And it's like they got to almost battle their way through and circumvent and kind of hide in certain, what are they talking about? Well, it makes perfect sense. And I totally get it. But there's such a reality to these things. These people had deep understanding of spiritual realms. That's all I can say. All right, he's the beginning. He's the firstborn from among the dead. All right. All right, now this is all what the New Testament, this is a great meaty verse that Paul has in Colossians in the New Testament. Paul, master Kabbalist. All I mean by Kabbalist, you just got to clean up your mind in the sense, it's not a trigger word. He was a receiver, he was a teacher of the deeper mysteries of the Sod Levitt. And he got it totally then on the level too, that of the Mashiach, of Messiah ben Joseph. And he just totally had, I think, one of the greatest, most brilliant minds filled with revelation of what was going on and where this thing was going in the future than many of them. All right. And I think that's played out from history. Okay. The time of the Gentiles is, in Paul said, about done. Now it's in the deep Zoharic literature that you can get the times and the seasons. But either way, all right. So we know he's the beginning and he is the firstborn from among the dead. And that's another. And then you have to understand how they code what the word dead is representing. Okay. But we're not going there in that. But he's everything that he might have the supremacy, for Elohim was pleased. Now we're talking about, now we have to be talking about the Father, because if we've just attributed all of this to the Son, so to speak, now and it's just like he says, for God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or things in heaven. People, these are real. Paul isn't, why would he say that? There's things on earth, but there's things in other realms. What are these realms? These people who completely cut themselves off from any, have the secular mindset. There's like a wall, a ceiling. There's nothing past. Oh, don't look up because there's really nothing. It's so shallow thinking. It defies nature. It defies reality. It defies what we know to be true. Every human being on the planet who deals with an inner life, which is everybody, knows. You're just denying reality to say there's no soul, but whatever. But this Elohim that we're talking about, who through him, through this, reconciled to himself all things, whether things on earth, things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. And so this shows you the whole totality, how from, God came down from heaven to earth and then back up. See, it's circular in the sense, the work that was accomplished. There's no like time in heaven, it doesn't exist. It's really a construct, something that affects us down here. It just takes so long for energy to get through down here. Just really does. We're so dense. But anyways, now let me read you. All right. So this image of the invisible God, this firstborn, all right, Michael who is Metatron, who is known as the captain of the heavenly host. He is the chief angel. We're told that Yahweh, the first he created was angels. All right. So, and he's the chief. All right. He was the firstborn over all of that. So he is the high priest who offers sacrifice in the heavenly temple. Now, where do you think James, who wrote, technically James, the just, is the one who wrote the book of James and his whole book of the Hebrews, and his whole point is they had a total understanding of who Melchizedek was. This title, and so this is what he was. He was the high priest, Melchizedek, in the heavenly temple. Now another one, which is another, is the charioteer of God, the charioteer of, which I can't even, but that, for those who are farther along, this is the whole concept of the Merkaba. And we'll just leave that one out there because that is so deep, but that is so biblically accurate. And that is what Ezekiel was seeing in the throne. See, this is what he's seeing in the throne, going through the charioteer of God, how Yahweh Elohim just goes to the universe and just, he accomplishes stuff. I mean, where's this universe they're talking about? See, okay, the name the Father gave him is his logo. See, one of the things about the Tanakh, or the way they were named in the Old Testament, why we have all these incredible stories about names being changed, Abraham and Sarah and all this stuff, because the name of someone refers back to, really, it's like root letters and what is in those. See, because your essence, this is what they're saying, the light, the essence, the imprint, whatever's being engraved, the initial, is in that initial engraving, let's just say. All right. So when the Father put his name, which is what it says, on this logos, this firstborn, that he engraved him with himself. He was of him. He was the first, he's the son of God. That's what they're saying. He is one of the firstborns. Well, he is the firstborn. And then we know there are other sons. There are other sons. So there's other firstborns. But the word logos in the New Testament, which means the logos is in him. All right, that is his. So, and he has life. He's also called, as that's why he's called the tree of life. In him, his life, and he can lay down his life, and he can take it up again. That's he is the light. He is the living water. Whoever drinks from him, that's in that name, that essence, come and drink. Drinking is absolutely fundamental to living. You've got to get sunlight, you got to get water, and then you actually have to get food, bread. Those are the three, everybody, you got to have it. Okay. And those are all coded, also ways of different, of the Mashiach, in different parts of this body, soul, and spirit that parallels the body, soul, and spirit of the whole El of God, his son. Okay, now let me go and start to read. Two things I have to say. So the office of before I get there, Melchizedek, there's tons of references in the writings. Okay, so all you have to do is go to the writings. See, this is something that Ephraimites are just going to have to humble themselves, and just, the rabbis have been tasked with the responsibility of carrying forward the writings, the prophets, and the Torah of Moshe. Okay, I mean, that's the fact, and they've done it, but they have an authority over this. This is their intellectual property, if you could say, but we need to respect it for what it is. Okay, so where are you going to go to find out who Melchizedek is? You got to go back to the Hebraic writings that these rabbis have been keeping for us. Many of them in the Targums, okay? And a Targum was a very important type of writing that came out at the time of Ezra, where the key core Hebraic understandings, theologically correct, when they came back to rebuild a second temple, that was being retaught to the people in a language they could understand, because they had been gone and most of them lost Hebrew speaking as a first language. I mean, look, it happens. So in here, in the Genesis, in the Targums, for Genesis 14:18. Okay, so it just starts in the Jerusalem Targum. It says, "And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was priest of God Most High." That's something we know. That's basically the way the New Testament says it. That a Christian would read. There's another one. The next one in Oconias, I believe it is Melchizedek, king of Jerusalem, brought forth bread and wine. Okay, same thing it says, but when you get into the Palestinian Targum, it's very clear. Melchizedek, who was Shem bar Noach, tells you right there who he is. He's son of Shem. Shem is the name Shem, but Shem, the son of Noah, Shem bar Noach, the king of Jerusalem, came forth to meet Abraham and brought forth to him bread and wine. And that time he ministered for him. And in the next one, in another Jerusalem, this must be the Jerusalem Targum, Melchizedek, king of Salem, who was Shem. who was the great priest of the Most High. So, I mean, it's in the literature. They're not confused. They understand this, okay? And my whole reason for doing this is because I've kind of just, in my kind of hunker down, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be. And a lot of your reality is going to determine by how you believe, what you think, how you react to situations and things that are going to come down. You know, tell the righteous it will be well with them. That is the fundamental message. There will be a way for us through this, and most of it will be determined by how well we can mentally and emotionally handle what's coming down the pike. Okay, this is the heavenly prince Melchizedek, who it says right here, the heavenly deliverer is Melchizedek. That's why Yeshua came down from heaven as the, you know, and when he went back up, he has reassumed his role as the high priest, and he himself had become the lamb. I mean, it all fits. There's no confusion. It's just such a grand story. You gotta, okay. He is identical with the Archangel Michael. This is coming right out of the scholars, the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is a translation coming from, I should tell you, from Gezaverms, I believe it is. Okay, but he is also known as the head of the sons of Elohim, sons of heaven, isn't he? The Adonai Sabaoth of heaven. Whenever you talk about the hosts of heaven, they're talking about the angelic armies, the armies in heaven, okay? Armies. And he is referred to as Elohim and El. And he is also referred to as the God of justice. He's the Prince of Peace. I mean, it just goes on and on. But the great act of his deliverance, final deliverance of the people. Remember, he's the defender of Israel. Listen, and he is going to deliver Israel from her enemies. That's the whole point. All right. This great final act of deliverance is expected to occur on the Day of Atonement at the end of the 10th Jubilee cycle. I mean, it's no accident everybody's trying to figure out how the Jubilee cycles. And yeah, we don't know the day or hour, but we can know the season. We're really, so anyways, okay, so this is going on. This is now talking about this heavenly prince. And it says he, so that's what it's referring to. He will assign them to the sons of heaven and to the inheritance of Melchizedek. This is talking about the Jubilee. When he comes and does this deliverance in this final year of Jubilee, he will proclaim liberty to the captives. So they're interpreting. Now, the way Dead Sea Scroll works, let me just tell you, because it is more of the deeper understandings, they write in what is called a pesher, which a pesher is just really their commentary, their understanding on the deeper soul level application of those verses. And I trust them and their understanding. Okay. So it's the interpretation is that he will assign these freed captives and make them sons of heaven and inherit in the inheritance of Melchizedek. Well, that's just what that fits with everything we know, right? And this will occur, as I said, in the first week of the Jubilee that follows the 9 Jubilees. And I'm not even going to go into all of that, the Jubilees. And the Day of Atonement is the end of the 10th Jubilee. That's why it's so prophetic what we're going through right now. The whole world is experiencing, in my opinion, these festivals, these calendar appointments on much greater, way beyond what they comprehend. But we are entering these times when all the sons of light and the men of the order of Melchizedek will be atoned for. And a statute, and this is interesting because a statute, it's written that these sons of light that will be delivered, there's a statute, there's a provision to provide them with rewards. For this is the moment of the year of the grace of Melchizedek. And he will, by his strength, judge the holy ones of Elohim, executing judgment as is written concerning him in the songs of David, who said, Elohim has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. He is the judge. You know, his vengeance is mine and I will repay. And there is a day of vengeance of our God. And we're coming up on it. And this is, so, you know, this is why this season of joy, because this Sukkot really does represent where we are finally free. We're living together with the Father, and it's millennial. But let me go back to this. Now it says here that it was written concerning him in the songs of David, who said, Elohim has taken his place. And that is in Psalm 132. I think I got that. And it was concerning him that he said, let the assembly of the peoples return to the height above them. Elohim will judge the peoples. As for that which he said, how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Now, this, and it says here, right, this interpretation, the Pesha, the way you should like understand who he's talking to, you know, it's context, who is it being addressed to? It's addressed to Satan and the spirits of his lot who rebelled by turning away from the precepts of God. So what we know, so I find Melchizedek, Michael, our defender, is going to come and he is going to vanquish. I mean, that's why the Catholics make that little, it's true. Just understand these things in their deepest archetypal understanding. And Melchizedek will avenge the vengeance of the judgments of Elohim. He will drag them from the hand of Satan and the hand of the spirits of that lot, and all the gods of justice will come to his aid to attend to the destruction of Satan. Isn't that what it says, that he will come with his angels? I guess another thing, we have to understand angels. Just let's not get weirded out. It's the most, it's an apt word, and it covers a lot of bases when you know, because there are definitely different classes of angels. I mean, Michael's in a class by himself. Okay, there's only one Michael. Okay, the point is, they're the intelligence. They live beyond the body. The part of us that lives beyond the body truly is made up of angelic. That's why they ate angels' food. I mean, you understand? Don't just have a critical mind and be able to think critically, and don't let trigger words take your mind down. Hold your ground. It's in the text. If anyone needs, our minds need to be corrected according to what the text, the people of the book are telling us. So gods will come to his aid and attend the destruction of Satan. The mountain, so then it goes on and there's other things, but Zion is the covenant of those who uphold the covenant. You know, the covenant we are talking about. There was a covenant before Moshe. Abraham made a covenant. Noah made a covenant again. The concept, and it's always go back to this concept with really of a 10 commandments, of an ethical, you know, you are our God, you have standards, we will obey you, and then you become our God. And then you'll protect us, you'll keep us, preserve us, you know, give us all everything that we need. That is the relationship that's happening in these covenants. And that has just been from the beginning, even back to Adam. So this is where you can see the concept of the son of the anointed one. I mean, the anointed one, this lamb, that who was anointed from the beginning to fulfill all of these roles through all time, you know, and he's coming soon. And it's, I'm preparing my mind. Are you doing that? Are you preparing your mind to receive the King of Glory? And people, these are in ways, your perception, you're going to see him. Truly, this is all really true, because we are what we think. Open up your heart and your mind to this King of Glory who is going to come in. And the nations, there's no contest. I get it now, why they would say, Yeshua, that the king will just breathe on. And that word breathe is so important, because that's the breath. That's what's in the breath of Elohim, which is not in everything else. So there's no contest. And so we just need to hang on, because our redemption does draw nigh, and our king is coming, and we will be victorious. But don't get bogged down in lower level emotional, don't let the politics of the thing, pray for the best, and be prepared for whatever warfare we have to go through to get it. So on that note, I love you all. Shalom and blessings, and I will see you in the next recording.